everybody. My name's Alan. On behalf of the crew, I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Bridging Heaven and Earth. You know, I had a week like everybody else. There were people in my family who had, physical situations, physical problems. There were friends and associates of mine who were facing physical problems and finances and, the usual things of this life, the usual ups and downs, the usual things that happen to us day to day that put us on this cycle, in a way, this cycle of joy and sadness, this cycle of happiness and not happiness, we're loved, we're not loved. And yet, somehow we all know that there is an experience of magic and wonder in this life. There is an experience of joy that, in a sense, transcends the day-to-day occurrences that we all have. Everyone who has a physical body experiences aging and problems with money and relationships and all the things that throughout history have troubled the human race. And yet, at the bottom of that, at the root of that, inside that, all those things is that experience of love, of that experience of wonder, of that experience of the magic of being in a human body, of having this experience, of having the joy of us all to be here together on this glorious planet. And, as I say, we miss it so much in our day-to-day lives. And again, tonight we have people whose lives are dedicated, and through the mystery and magic of their lives have really come in touch with the magic and wonder of this world and of their own lives. And again, they've come from all over the world to share their experiences of that joy and wonder with us. So we can, once again, raise that level within ourselves, come to a greater recognition of that knowing. Because we do know it's magical that we can look in a mirror and have something look back, that the consciousness of that magnificence, what in certain religions we call God, is us looking back at us, is us having this experiment for us and to us. And to have that recognition again and again. We have Leela Hutcheson, who's had experiences with crystals that probably no one, these extraordinary giant crystals, that very few people on this earth have experienced. She goes on these expeditions into these caves, 1,300 feet into a mountain, where these extraordinary crystals that have a vibration that is almost unbelievable of that magic and wonder. She's a spiritual teacher and a healer, and she has pictures of her in those caves that are just extraordinary. So she's here with us to share with us that just magnificence that she's come in contact with. And we're also honored, which was a surprise because as of a week ago we didn't know that we were going to have Ali Akbari with us, who's a world-renowned healer. On videos that I personally have seen that we couldn't really put together tonight, we didn't have the time because of just the synchronicity of having him on, just for this short introduction to you. And when the show is coming up, we're going to do a whole show with Ali. He's a world-renowned healer. And in this video that I saw, literally people were getting out of wheelchairs, that blind people who hadn't seen in years could see, deaf people could hear. You say that, how can that be? Because that's the magic and wonder of this world. And we know that things are not always the way they seem, and things seem that they cannot be that way. But he's been tested at Princeton, he's been tested by NASA, and those gifts in his hands are real. So the magic and wonder can exist, and it can exist for us all. So he is just, gloriously agreed to do a universal healing for this show, where he is going to share his vibration and his energy right out through the cameras to everyone throughout the world who continues to watch his show in the years and ions forever, in essence. So we're just, again, incredibly blessed to have Leela and Ali with us tonight. And it's an opportunity for us all to find that place in us of the joy, the true love, the true God, the true magic, the true wonder, because we know it's there. And in that we can really just collaborate and work and play and do so many extraordinary things on this magnificent planet. So as we normally do at this time, please join me in a short meditation. Then we have Leela and Ali and just an extraordinary show. So if you don't know how to meditate, just relax, settle in, and then we're going to have just some wonderful experiences. So please join me. Well, thank you. So, as I started to introduce Ali Akbari before, but he's going to do a universal healing. He uses vocal vibration, mental telepathy, and electromagnetic energy to give that harmonizing, that healing energy out. And he can do it through the cameras, through remotely. He's been tested, as I said, by NASA, by Princeton University. In Iran, where he grew up and where he lives part of the time before he started traveling the world, giving his healing gift to the people of the world. He was brought into to court to basically prove it. I mean, people had heard about Ali and had been coming to his house and lining up around the block. And his neighbor, who was a medical doctor, said, "You know, what kind of thing? This guy ain't a doctor. Why are these people coming?" So he was hauled off into court. And he had to go through this entire process. First, his hands were measured, and the electromagnetic energy out of his hands was 6 times the average. And then they said, "We're going to give you this array of 100 people who are sick, who are very sick, with cancers and diabetes and heart conditions." And they said, if you can heal one, then you can go on, even though you don't have a medical license, and heal the Iranian people. And he went around and healed these 100 people, and out of 157 were basically completely healed. And the Iranian court ruled that Ali could go on and practice this incredible gift from God that he's been given. So we're honored to have him as a special occurrence to be able to share his gift with us. So he's going to do a universal healing, and then sometime later in the season or next year, we're going to have an interview with him and hear about all his gifts. So, Ali Akbari.
Hello. Hello, my name is Ali Akbari. I am Iranian, and I came here only for visit USA and for search. I'm very happy to see you tonight. I am healer, and I want to help you. Maybe you are at home and you are sick. I don't know. Excuse me if I cannot very well to speak English, because my first language is Persian and French. I speak 4 languages, but I want to try to speak English with you. I can give you energy 3 ways, on 3 ways. 1, on group, when the people is big people. For example, if you think I can give energy from TV, from video, you can believe me. And I hope that I can come back again, maybe in 3 months or 4 months, I don't know, for 5 months. And I can show you my video, because tonight I don't have time, And I came here only for you and for me. Okay, you know that in my voice, this energy, I have energy in my voice. And when I sing, you can receive energy. If you are at home, you can put your hand on your heart, and when I sing, you receive my energy and you feel. You know that maybe the thousand people, they receive and they give my energy. They gave my energy, and they became cured. And my friend Alan, he told you that I was in court. That's right, because the doctor, they didn't believe, they doesn't believe. And I went in court, and they gave me 100 sick people, and they told me that if you can cure only one, we accept. But I could 57% help, and I am very happy. Okay, you stay, you are free, you thinking positive. If you have one problem, you're thinking about your problem. For example, if you have problem from your stomach, you're thinking about your stomach, and you tell, I want cured. I want become cured. Thank you. I send for you energy now. Okay, you are free now. You are ready. And I sing for you. But before I want to speak you something is very, very important. When I give you energy tonight, from tomorrow night, you must, at 10 until 10 minutes, you take one glass water and you put front of you. You're thinking about me and your problem. But you take your hand same like yoga, You close your eyes and you're thinking about your problem and me. Why you must thinking about me? Because at 10 o'clock, I am like satellite and I send energy for you. And now you are ready. Okay, I repeat. You take one glass water, you put front of you. You take your hand you're thinking about me and your problem, and after 10 minutes you take this glass water and you drink. Okay? Thank you. You thinking positive. I'm ready. You are ready. I sing now. Qui sera, qui sera, qui sera, qui sera me faire revivre d'autres joies? Ma seule raison de vivre, essayez de me le dire. Qui sera, oui, qui sera? Mes amis, essayez de comprendre. Vous dites que je sortirai de l'ombre. J'aimerais bien vous croire, oui, mais mon cœur vive romance. Ma question reste toujours sans réponse. Ma question reste toujours sans réponse. Qui sera, qui sera, qui sera, qui sera me faire vivre d'autres joies? Ma seule raison de vivre, essayez de me le dire. Qui sera, oui, qui sera? Mes amis, essayez de comprendre. Vous dites que je sortirai de l'ombre. J'aimerais bien vous croire, oui, mais mon cœur vous romance. Ma question reste toujours sans réponse. Ma question reste toujours sans réponse. Ok, je vous parle un peu le français, peut-être que c'est beaucoup mieux, certains qui peuvent comprendre. Alors, à partir de demain soir, vous n'oubliez pas, vous mettez un verre d'eau devant vous, vous restez tranquille, vous pensez à moi très fort et à votre problème, mais vous pensez très positif. Parce que si vous pensez positif, j'en suis sûr que la maladie ne reviendra jamais. Mais il ne faut pas oublier, il faut prendre vos médicaments aussi. Hein. Il ne faut pas dire que maintenant j'ai pris l'énergie de Ali Akbari et puis c'est fini. Non, ce n'est pas du tout fini. Vous suivez bien vos médicaments, les conseils de votre médecin. Et puis moi je serai très content. Et maintenant je vais vous chanter quelque chose en persan et je vais vous envoyer l'énergie en persan. کجا سفر رفتی چه بی خبر رفتی اشکم را چرا ندیدی دست از من چرا کشیدی دل از من چرا بریدی که پیش چشمم ره دگر رفتی بیا به بالینم که جان مسکینم تا به غم دگر ندارد جز بر تو نظر ندارد جان بی تو ثمر ندارد مگر چه کردم که بی خبر رفتی چه قصه ها که از وفا گفتی با من تو بی محبتی کنون جانای من تو چنان شنر به خدا خبر ز خدا نداری رود آتش از سر آن سرا که تو پا گذاری سوز دلم را تو ندانی آتش غم را ننشانی. Put your hand on your heart, please. Thank you. I was very happy tonight. Thank you very much. If I cannot be stay here more, but I was very, very happy with Alan and with group of Alan. Thank you very much. And I am sure that if I come again here, I am with you. Bye. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Ali. That was fantastic. So, thank you very much. So we're on the set with Leela. Hi, Leela.
Hi, Alan.
How you feeling?
Pretty good.
Good. So why don't you tell the people, I mean, I guess as we go along, we'll start showing some of the pictures of you with the giant crystals, how that whole story came about, how it started for you.
All right. I'll say it as briefly as I can. I was in Sedona, Arizona. But prior to that, I received guidance. I was living in the Bay Area, and my guidance was to leave. And little did I know it had nothing really to do with Sedona at all, but was
When
the
you say
journey.
guidance, how, you know, for people who are not familiar with that, you refer to that. How do you mean that?
I would say it would be my own
Inner
higher self.
Intuition?
My own intuition, accessing my higher self, spirit guiding me. And the way that is manifested is like through pictures. You know, I see things. I see landscapes, I see objects, and I saw turquoise, and I saw reddish brown and orangey mountains. And there's only one place that I know of is like that, really, and that's Sedona.
Hmm.
So on my journey, I stopped in Mexico and ran into the amazing man. His name is Richard Fisher, whom I had met 3.5 years earlier, who asked me, he said, "Where have you been? I've been looking for you for a long time and had no way to get in touch with you. Can you come outside? I have something to show you." And outside in Agua Prieta, Mexico, he shows me these incredible photographs of these beautiful giant selenite crystals that were 25 feet to 50 feet tall.
And huge. I mean, huge around. They weren't-
Huge, like
yeah.
maybe as thick as sequoia trees, tree trunks that were like 4 to 6 feet. And I started screaming. I had never seen anything like that. And he said, "I'll tell you what, I'm on my way down there now to photograph the caves again. Please hold on to the pictures, and I'll tell you what, you can send them back to me once you settle in Sedona, and send them to me in Tucson." And so that's how it began. I reluctantly called him sometime in January of 2001, and that was about 9 months after these amazing crystals were discovered.
Hmm.
And what had happened was, when I called him to give him back the photos, he said to me, "You called just in time, and there's a seat for you in the truck if you would like to come on this scientific expedition down into the caves in Chihuahua, Mexico, which is exactly about 500 miles south of El Paso." So I was in Sedona, and I drove to Tucson, and from there we drove about 16 hours into Chihuahua. And there, that night, I had in my dreams a beautiful white owl come to me and led our whole group to these caves, and I knew that it was going to be all right. So that's how it started, and that's how I got into the caves.
So, just describe your experience, like going to the caves and,
Okay.
you know, getting into the caves and being in the caves. You know, what it, I mean, it was like 150 degrees, it's completely
That's
black.
right.
I mean, why don't you
No, there's so
give
much to
people
say.
well,
Okay,
you
all
can
right.
say it. That's the beauty of the show.
I don't even
you
know where to
actually get to
start.
say it, and you probably will be heard probably sometime soon. So.
Well, it's a very exciting place. They're in the low hills of Naica, which means shady place or place of rest in the Raramari language of the Tarahumara Indians, which are one of the most traditional Native American tribes in North America. And this area is a silver, lead, and zinc mine, the Pinoles Mining Group. And they have been managing and operating the mine since 1967, but it has been in operation for over 200 years. So the way you access the mine is through driving through Naica. However, on the way down there, you go through the old Camino Real, which is really the old trading route of different Indian nations. This is what we used to do in North America. This was a very old route. And through there, you access these low-lying hills, and probably for many hundreds of years, this is where they knew to find water. There's a huge aquifer underneath the low hills. And in there are these amazing selenite crystals that had been discovered in April. Now before that, in 1910, the Cave of Swords was discovered. It was also a selenite cave, and it was located about 400 feet below the Earth's surface. And in there were selenite rods that were 4 to 6 feet tall. And those were, for a very long time, one of the greatest selenite wonders of the world.
But in terms of, in their comparison to these others, they're like babies.
They're baby crystals.
Wow.
But that was at 200 feet below the Earth's surface. The rim's about 400 feet. Now, the miners, anticipating finding a vein of minerals, had punched through the bedrock and discovered in these two caves these amazing crystals growing in heat. They were like baking in 150-degree heat and 100% humidity. And they thought they were going to find possibly silver. So they were astounded. And what they had found out was that the lower you go in this particular mine, the hotter it is. It's 2 to 3 miles below or above the magma fault, or the magma, I should say. And what had happened was the magma heats up into these fissures into the bedrock. And because of the atmospheric pressure in there, it dissolved sulfide salts, and those turned into a crystalline structure, which are selenite. And the proper name for selenite is hydrated calcium sulfate, and that is a saline structure. And the reason why we as humans are so identified with selenite is that we are also, our bodies are made of about 90% saline solution.
Wow.
So we, on a very deep primal level, we have a sense of oneness and connection with something as so special as this crystalline form.
So you drove down this road, you go, and how do you get to 1,300 feet?
Oh.
You know, how do you get there? How does it happen? And then what do you wear? And what is the...
How do you do all that?
How do you do it?
Well, what's happening now is that Roberto Gonzalez is the manager of the mine, and we had to gain access to get into the mines through him. And we were met by Enrique Alejandro, which is the...
I mean, you're the first American woman who was ever in these, right? And the
woman.
second woman
the woman.
altogether, right?
The first American man was Richard Fisher, who is the photographer who figured out how do you take photographs in 150-degree heat. And he found out how to do that through using mechanical cameras that we used to use, and not the electronic ones, because they jam and they can't really adjust to that type of heat. And also using a clear lens. So that is one of the reasons why they asked Mr. Fisher to come into the mines. And he had asked me to bring the female energy into the caves. So once we gained access in there, we loaded up into a diesel pickup truck and drove for about an hour very slowly, lower and lower and lower into
And this is all
the
mining
mines.
areas that
All
they
of
had
it.
all for zinc and copper, and so they had built these trails inside the mountain.
That's right. They're actually roads.
Roads
They look like mushrooms, actually, from the bedrock from one level to the next. And there we stopped in front of a beautiful, well, it was actually kind of bulldozed with selenite crystals and rocks on the ground. And the bedrock around has satin spar, which is like a conglomerate of selenite. And then we climbed up stairs into I think like a regular, I think maybe they might have punched through it, I'm not sure. But as we climbed in to this particular space about 15 feet above the ground on this particular level, we had to go through a hole that was very small. And it felt like being in the womb and through the birth canal. And then you popped out, but you popped inside the womb. It was very dark. There's absolutely no light in there except for the flash of the camera.
And you wore like little miner's caps and a belt that had the
battery pack.
But still, from what you were saying, you could only be in there for a few minutes, and then you would just
That's right.
get me out. Everybody, male, female, young, old,
It doesn't matter. It's impossible. And there's two caves, Alan. The first cave is called the Cave of Dreams, and it's about a 2,000-foot structure. And then the Cave of Giants, where the 25-foot to 50-foot structures are, is called the Cave of Giants. All right, so in the Cave of Dreams, though, it was about 125 degrees in temperature. Now, if you can picture this, there's absolutely no sound. It's like being in a sound room. There's no reflections anywhere. There's nothing bouncing off walls. And there's no light. You can't see your hand in front of you, except for your miner's helmet. And I had no idea the color or the clarity of the crystals until we came out and saw the photos.
Right.
So we're looking at a nanosecond.
Yeah, I have one on the camera now. That's you. Why don't you describe that one?
All right, that is in the Cave of Dreams, and we literally climbed up a crystal fall of 20 to 25 feet. And because of the extreme heat, it's almost impossible to explore the caves at that time. It was only 6 months into the exploration of both of those caves since they were discovered. I'm sure by now they have fully explored them, but at that time it was almost impossible because of the extreme heat. One man had died in the caves as well, and I'd written a little bit about that. But I'm at the far left side of the cave, and the smaller one, and as you can see, these crystals, there's one huge columnar in there, and the rest look like shark's teeth. So it's very small. And in here we spent about 25 minutes because we thought that it was the heat was maybe about 120.
So this was almost bearable.
It was almost bearable, but I think we really kind of tricked our minds a little bit. Because of the magma surges, it's really hard to determine. There's no fixed temperature in there. So it was probably hotter than that, and it took quite a while to recover. The tunnels...
But you stayed in there for 25 minutes in a row.
Oh yeah, in the smaller cave.
In the smaller cave, and then when you went into the upper cave, the Cave of Giants, you basically could stay in there for 5 minutes and then
5
out.
minutes. It was exhausting.
It was exhausting.
Absolutely exhausting.
So, and you're crawling in, and is it sharp? Is it soft? I mean, what are these giant crystals
What
feel?
they feel like, they're very warm to the touch. And on the Mohs scale, which is it's a scale to determine the hardness of minerals, this is a +2, which means it's almost as soft as your fingernail. So if you put these particular selenite crystals in water, they would dissolve. Yet they're very heavy, as you can see. They're full of, moisture. They were jagged, and yes, you could hurt yourself. I did have knee pads on. Of course, the sweat, it just made them kind of fall off. But you could navigate, you could crawl over them and climb up them. And some of them broke, and I was very concerned about that we were ruining the beautiful structure of these crystals. But what I learned later is because these are growing, that they create the snow. They merge into each other, and they literally kind of grind as they're growing into each other. And when we walked into the Cave of Giants, these structures were literally growing like Superman's Fortress of Solitude. They were diagonal and vertical and horizontal. And
wow.
they were huge
And
structures.
what vibration, I mean, obviously is just incredible as I started the show tonight, things that we just have never seen before, and just the wonder of them, the majesty and the glory. It's like the ocean. Sometimes we're going along in our lives, and then you come to the ocean and go, oh, or you just see a sunset, or something that brings you outside of yourself a little. And but energetically, what did you feel in there when you were in there?
It was almost a paradox. It was a very inward journey. It was so suffocatingly hot that really to be present was the only way to endure for me. There was a very strong urge to run and get out of the caves on one hand, and then the other was, if you really couldn't be in the past, you had to be present to be able to even get in there and walk around, climb around.
So, I mean, what would these particular crystals, you brought 2 in now.
I did.
These weren't from
No.
either of the caves,
No, we
right?
didn't. No,
but they
there's-
are extremely heavy, right? So, I mean, and they're soft,
Yes,
more or
very
less.
That's right. These are, they're like optical fibers. They carry light. They're transmitters and receivers. And a very dear friend of mine and teacher, her name is Ashiana Dean, has helped me to understand more about selenite and these crystal structures. And what I've come to understand about selenite is that they are used as these transmitters and receivers, and there are probably 12 of these temples in the earth all around the planet, and they are connected
we've
in a network.
had people on to talk about grid lines and the raising of the frequencies, and how do you think that these particular caves or areas where these giant crystals grow what's the effect you think they have?
I think they have a lot to do with stabilizing the Earth's atmosphere. I think they have a lot to do at one time, and I would like to share this with everyone here, is that this information that I have come to understand and learn about is in something called the Voyagers. It's volume 2. And it's written by Ashiana Dean. These crystals were used, they were brought here over 3 million years ago to help to stabilize the planet.
And how were they brought here?
I couldn't tell you exactly how they were brought here, but many
and
of
who
these.
brought them?
These were the Maharajis from Sirius B.
Which is extraterrestrial.
That's right.
Other solar
Seeded.
systems.
And this was done in a seeding of the Earth to help stabilize, probably after a pole shift, so that the humans could again thrive. And so it became a tropical, subtropical climate, so the conditions were warm instead of harsh and cold. So selenite has, and I thought a lot about bridging heaven and earth and what that means, and having the opportunity to spend time with you. And I really do appreciate what you're doing here, and the gifts and the love that you share with so many people.
Is that why you gave this to me as a pendant?
Yeah.
I'm just going to start to wear this. I appreciate the gift, but it's a little...
Okay, well, let me tell you what that means.
Okay, good.
Well, it's like a bridge. Selenite is actually, it works with the 10th chakra, and we have so many chakras within our bodies. And then we have so many chakras on the outside of our bodies. We can't see those, but this is considered something called, it works with the 10th chakra, which is the stellar gateway. So it really is a bridge. It's a light bridge. It's a bridge which weds matter with spirit.
So this actually was a viable topic for the show. So
right.
You are an appropriate guest.
I guess so.
Okay,
You're
thank
not
you.
gonna
I
kick me
was a
out.
little concerned for a while. But okay, go on now. Now that we've determined that, we can move on.
Well, it's a bridge, and it's
Right.
a bridge to our light bodies. And selenite has many healing properties, and that's another thing I know that.
So
that's
did you
important
feel
to you.
different? I mean, you're in a physical body. You went in. You had, you've lived this life. You've been around the block a couple of
I
times,
have.
right? And so you went into this cave. You spent, a good amount of time in the smaller cave. Then you went to the cave of the giants.
3 or 4 times, yes.
I mean, did you walk out and you had no wrinkles? Did you walk out? And,
Well, we lost about we lost
you'll
about
have
5
a
or
big
10 pounds.
lineup. Yeah, you lost a lot of.
We
weight.
all did. It's
Yeah,
great. It was a
right.
super hot sauna in there, so actually we had to keep tightening our battery pack belts.
So thing doesn't fall.
That it was falling off, all of it. So it's one way to lose weight. Certainly, it was a lot of fun.
But I mean, did you notice anything in particular, like an epiphany, physically, mentally, spiritually, just from the 20 minutes you spent there, and one of the few people on Earth who actually has been around that kind of magic and wonder?
That's a good question. There's a lot of things that happen. Yes, I did experience an impact of energy. It was like a tsunami of energy in there. It felt like this deep hum, and yet there was no sound at all.
So it was like the noise of quiet, kind
Yes. Yes, very much so.
of? Wow.
And I would say that I'm still assimilating that experience. It's
And do
taken
you
a long
notice
time.
any changes?
Yeah, I do. My dreams are much more profound. Healing abilities.
And yeah, I mentioned at the opening you are a healer, and so you do healing work with different type. Not you don't put these crystals.
Well,
aside.
actually, I have put them underneath my table.
Underneath would be better than on the person. So.
I would.
Whoa.
Oh God. I would rather not say that I'm a healer as much as I'm a facilitator and a teacher, and I love the body work that I do, and I believe that what has happened in being in those crystal caves is it's been able to help transmit frequency. And
So would you say you're more open? I mean, there's more of a vessel, an open vessel,
and understanding that our connection with the One is very deep, and it's helped me to open up more to understanding what that means. That's very private. I don't even really know how to articulate all that.
Well, we got about 20 more minutes, so you can give it a shot. No, I mean, that's what the show's about, is people's experience of that connection to the oneness. So, and you did something that probably no one else who has ever watched this show has done. I mean, I think Carlos, it's not on in Oaxaca, Mexico, I know. But they could have listened to it on the internet. So no, really, try to talk about that. It'd be really interesting to people because, I mean, obviously these are extraordinary things, structures, beings. I mean, you felt they were alive, right?
I do. I feel they're very alive, and they have.
And very conscious.
I think all energy is consciousness, and consciousness is energy. And these beings have the essence of being programmed. They can be downloaded with programs, and I believe that these have been. I also think that these are supplicant sites, that there are tremendous huge crystals that make these like tiny little babies that are probably located south of Mexico City.
What makes you say that rather than, like underneath Manhattan? I mean, why do you think that? I mean, I know it's more exotic to think that, but I mean, why? I mean,
Well,
is there
it's
any
some of
reason
the
for that?
studies
They are the
that
crystal studies.
yeah, absolutely. They're called Q sites, and there is a Q site that's located somewhere in central Mexico, and I believe that probably the Aztecs had reason to build their pyramids and their temples
On these locations.
above.
Uh-huh.
A
And
massive
has
crystal temple.
excavations ever been?
This is the first, and I don't believe it's the last. In fact, one of the things that I did is I did contact the State Department of Tourism in Chihuahua, and a few things that I would like your viewers to know about. They are offering some permits to access these two particular caves through the Pinollas Mining Group. They would have to contact the mining company to do that, and they will allow maybe 5 or 6 people to go in there. I don't know how many times. I'm sure it's going to be very restricted. So that's one aspect, but I did find out that just recently they have discovered another crystal cave.
In that same area?
Same area, and it stands
it's
to reason
big
they
or
would.
little or
Bigger.
bigger?
And
the
hotter.
crystals bigger.
I believe they're bigger, and I know that it's deeper into the earth, which means it's extremely hot. So it's almost impossible to explore these caves because of the extreme heat.
Now, we talked about this earlier, Chris. You know, you came in yesterday and we spent some time together. I mean, do you see in the future, I mean, some kind of, you know, outfits or masks? I mean, we send, you know, people go into space, people go, you know, 1 million feet underground. You know, we have some technological wonder in
You mean
this.
like oxygen tunnels or something?
Oxygen tanks that you wear, you know, just, you know, small ones, or, you know, something that would be conformed to, you know, specifically for that function.
Well, I think these are very sacred sites, and personally, I'm not sure that that would be a very good idea. When they punched a hole in the bedrock and discovered these, they changed the environment. They're not growing anymore inside a bubble. They're now exposed to the tunnels, which have, they're cooled to a nice temperature
So they
of
don't
105.
shut them off. There isn't one. Didn't I see a door on one?
You did. That's
so
the Cave
one
of
is
Giants.
shut off.
Yes.
So it is enclosed still with whatever.
But it's
leakage.
still changed the
Right.
environment in there, even though
Right.
it's shut off because it was opened up. So I'm not sure if it stopped the
Can you
crystals
imagine
from
the heat
growing,
that came out of that the first time? Oh my God.
like a convection of them.
Just awful.
And that's an interesting story.
And they were just looking for, they were just a mining company looking for more
minerals.
ore and minerals.
Yeah. And what had happened is that these crystals, selenite crystals, are valuable on the black market, and there has been a proliferation of these that have been sold.
And is there any like use for them other
They're
than
healing
the
properties.
healing
They know,
properties
and they're
that-
very beautiful. If you stood these upright and you had put a light underneath it, they would just absolutely just shoot like a fountain of light through them. And I was at the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show last year, 2 years ago, and there was a selenite crystal that was probably the combination of both of these, maybe a third one in diameter, and about 4 feet tall, and it had sold for $10,000. So they're valuable. And I'd hate to see that happen. There wasn't a miner who had accessed the caves and literally thought he could hack one out, because I told you how soft they are. And if you put a selenite crystal in water, it would dissolve. But as he was attempting to hack it out, he had taken his own breath, maybe his own air, and blew up a couple of plastic bags, took a crowbar and a rope, and tied it over one. In fact, I have a slide that even shows the rope still hanging there when we went in there. And apparently he must have fallen. And he either rendered himself unconscious or died there, I'm not sure, but the next day they found him cooked to death, attempting to take these crystals out. And that's why they put a concrete wall and an iron door. So
But it's
they can
not in the
preserve those.
smaller ones where the crystals are still huge. I mean,
Yeah, they're
for-
huge. But no, these are the huge columns. They're quite
I mean, but
large.
For anybody to think that they can move those, I mean, they obviously have a screw loose at 150-degree heat, you know,
would think
with
so.
a rope. I mean,
I didn't think
I
Mother
think
Earth like
not,
that.
you know. Yeah, right. I mean, that didn't seem to fit. So yeah, tell us about, you know, like the internal explosion that happened to you from that. I mean, I think that is really like, you know, you were just given an opportunity and a gift that is very difficult to either come by or almost no one has at this point.
And it's difficult to talk about. I'm not really sure I know all the gifts that have come. It's not like I think this is going to be an ongoing
Giftage?
giftage, yeah, an ongoing giftage, so that I can. It's going to just take a while. I think I'm not quite sure all the reasons why we're in those caves. I was in the caves with the other people. You know, they all have a different purpose. I believe that this is a gift to all of us. It's really something, selenite, to understand how selenite is used and understand that the magic of this world and the gifts that we have. I think there's going to be many more phenomena that's going to be discovered on the planet in the next few years. And this is just one of many that like Mother Earth is just, you know, having her little party, coming out party. And we're going to see more and more of these type of crystals. And the thing is, what I'd like to share with everyone here is that, and your viewers, is that there's an activation that can happen just by looking at the crystals. And as you look at them, it really works to activate. It works with your DNA on the atomic structure. It helps to recalibrate your bone structure. Again, it merges and helps to the human body to become more of its light body. It's a very powerful, predominant seer stone, and if people want to know more about that, there's a couple of places. Melody, have you heard of Melody? Love is in the Earth. Her books, many metaphysical people know about her books, and you can find out what the powers are of selenite. Also, Christina Raphael, The Crystalline Transmission. She has 3 books on crystals that really tell you how to use selenite in healing yourself and healing others.
So how do you use it in your play work or as a
Well, I
body
sleep.
work?
I sleep with them in my room. They sleep right next to my bed.
And you actually have a few that you somehow. I have to turn her in now. But
Bad.
Don't
Don't do it.
Okay.
Well, let
That
me.
were from around that area, right?
I was given a small crystal by the chief of security. Actually, all of our packs were searched as we left. So I definitely don't want to encourage anybody, if they do go there, thinking that they can just pick up crystals and take them home, because that's not going to happen. These particular crystals are not from Mexico. They're from Morocco. So just want to get that straight. And also, selenite and gypsum, the largest mining area for gypsum is in Nova Scotia. So they come from these saline beds, most of them, like they're inland locked oceans and seabeds, and this is how they become crystalline form.
And is there any evidence that they're in certain formations around the planet? You know, any kind of regular patterns? You know, and you know what I mean. So
I know what you're saying. Nothing like this has been discovered except for a geode in Spain. The BBC had investigated it last year. It could seat 4 people. So you can imagine just a geode rock, and then 4 people could sit in there. These are huge chambers. So there's nothing like it, and I expect they will find more, and this will become something like another wonder of the world. They're so unique. But they're really not unique. What we're understanding is that our whole Earth, just like our bodies, have this crystalline structure. And they help to stabilize the planet. They help to keep the planet turning and moving, and also receive transmissions and broadcastings from our universe, our galaxy. That's what I believe.
And what types of information is being transmitted, as far as you can tell?
Well, it's immense amount of information, and I would suggest that people who are interested in that would research that. There's 2 places they can do that. The Azurite Press, www.azuritepress.com, is a place where an immense amount of information can be found regarding these Q sites and stargates and the planetary grids and what's happening. And also the Voyagers books, volumes 1 and 2 by Ashiana Dean, that would help them. It's immense information. I don't even know how to begin to talk about all that.
There's no synopsis you can give us?
I wish I could. I wish I could tell you a whole lot more about it. But it's like it's not in any kind of concrete way. There's so many different things to say about it. If I opened it up, it would be like this huge file that there could be like all these other aspects. It would leave people more asking more questions than feeling that they have the answers.
Is that necessarily bad? I'm just curious how you would see that, because not necessarily is that a bad thing that people.
No, I think question everything is very important.
Yeah, so you can go ahead then.
Well, let me go back to using crystals in my healing work.
Yes, please do.
And I think people can do this, and I'm sure there's many that do. Selenite is, again, is used to really access. You can access past lives, and Melody writes about it, is very interesting. She said that magicians in days of old would use selenite to store information when they felt they were in danger and their life was in danger. They would download the information into the fiber optic lines of the crystals.
And is there information how they did that?
Mm-mm. No.
And is there information about how it came out? In other words, did people get it out? In other words, how do people
you can
read it?
like retrieve it. Maybe they were our first computers. Maybe they were their hardware, like the Merlins would use that. And I think that they're still transmitting. If they're doing it then.
So this is like old information that's coming back again
That's
as
right.
we're in a way ready for it.
Yes. There's a reason. I don't know all the reasons why these are being revealed to all of us, but they are, these crystals. And more of these caves and these temples will be.
And I'm sure in one way you thought about it, in one way it doesn't matter, and it's irrelevant, but have you thought about why you were one of the people given this opportunity, of the 2 or 3 people on Earth who were given this opportunity?
To be the first in there? Interesting enough, the mining company did not allow women to be in the mine because it was superstitious. It was bad luck. So.
Unless you came with a canary, as the old saying.
But Sonia Morales, who was the first Mexican-American woman who is working as the chief of tourism, working with the chief of tourism in Chihuahua, and myself were the 2 first women to ever be in those caves.
And how come they allowed that to happen at that point?
I guess they were ready.
They were ready.
They were
and whatever
ready.
that particular fear or superstition, they decided
it was time.
Enough of that stupidity. We move on.
We move on, and I think.
And what has happened since then? I mean, you were there what, a year ago?
I was there. Actually, this is very interesting. Today, 2 years ago, I was flying back to Tucson. So yesterday was the anniversary 2 years ago that I was in the caves. It's interesting timing.
Wow.
Like I said, they have found a new cave, even deeper and much hotter. So the impossibility of exploring the cave is what they're deciding now. And can they really do it?
So it almost is possible that people who are watching the show could contact you or contact the authorities in Mexico and actually possibly, if they're in the good health and
yes.
Have a certain
They didn't have a lot high blood pressure or the potential of having a stroke or their legs are strong.
That they possibly could do what you did.
They definitely could.
They definitely could.
They definitely could.
As far as you know, they could.
Yeah, it's going to be available to people. The best way to do that, again, is the Pinoles Mining Company in Naica, N-A-I-C-A, Mexico. Also, to contact the State Department of Tourism in Chihuahua, Mexico. They will handle all the information for accommodations and places to stay. And they, like I said, they can find and obtain the permits through the mining company. And they're going to allow maybe 5 or 6 people at a time.
Wow. I think we're coming to the end of the show. It's over. So, it's, again, I mean, I don't know your experience, but, for us here, it was just an extraordinary time. So, if you want any information on Leela or Ali, it's Alan, 805-687-2053. In whatever lives you have and whatever your days are like, whatever your nights are like, Their magic and wonder is there. You are the magic and wonder, and we can experience that. So let's go, let's do it, let's join each other. Good night, God bless you. Thank you for coming.